LexisNexis. They know a lot about you, and the information they collect about you gets sent to all different types of people, from lenders to credit issuers to suppliers to insurance providers to law enforcement. So many decisions are made about you and even your business that are based on information in your LexisNexis credit report. And during today's training, we are going to talk about LexisNexis. We're going to decode them. We're going to talk about who they are, where they get their data, what kind of data they collect. It's a lot more than you think that it is. I'm going to show you how your credit report is about 300 pages like mine with LexisNexis, how to get your credit report, how to update your credit report, everything you need to know to be able to get your LexisNexis credit report to be beautiful, so that way you can get the best terms on credit, financing, insurance, a lot of other things as well. Let's dive in. We've got a lot to cover today. So look, have you ever been denied for a loan before? Well, if you have, it's probably because of something to do with information from your LexisNexis credit report. As you're about to learn, it's not just loans we're talking about. It's not just credit cards. It's not just credit lines. It's everything to do with insurance, amongst many other things. So I can tell you recently, last week, I was denied for jewelry insurance because of something to do with my LexisNexis insurance credit score, which I'm getting corrected, and I'll teach you how to correct as well. So this carries into many different worlds that you are in, including getting capital for you personally and your business. So it's common to have no idea how much information is really out there about you. Okay, and this is definitely the case with LexisNexis. What you're going to see today will be absolutely shocking. I can only describe what's on your LexisNexis credit report as the most intrusive thing you will ever experience in your entire life. The volume of information that's about you from the time you're born to current day that's actually published on certain reports like LexisNexis is shocking. And as you can see here, a typical report on one consumer is about 250 pages. Here's mine. This is my LexisNexis credit report to give you an idea. I'll put my finger up to this so you can see how big this thing is. I'll put my thumb up. You can see. So it's pretty big, over 300 pages. This is a typical report that you will see when you get your own LexisNexis credit report. What makes 300 pages on a LexisNexis credit report? I'm about to show you what's involved. So again, a lot of this information has been online in a lot of different places anywhere. So a lot of your personal info is out there. But what LexisNexis is they're an aggregator of data. So they're collecting a lot of information from a lot of sources and putting it into one place, everything to do with your entire history, like I said, as you'll see today, from things that occurred from when you were born up until today. So what do? Well, instead of providing data to consumers that's front-facing, what they do is they gather data behind the scenes, and then they provide it to places like insurance companies, the government, financial services, debt collection, law enforcement, public safety, lenders, credit issuers, amongst many other sources. So when you get pulled over by the police, for example, when you are applying for an insurance policy for your business or individually, when you're getting a loan, when you're getting a credit card, when you're doing things with the government, all of these things are, all these different resources or all these different places are using the same source of information that they're making all kinds of decisions about you. Should you get insurance? Should you get a loan? Should you get a speeding ticket? You know, all these type of decisions are made by information that's actually accumulated on the LexisNexis credit report. And Jonas says, I'm looking for a loan. We can help with that, Jonas. Our number's right here on the bottom of our slides. Thanks for tuning in on LinkedIn. Hello from Las Vegas, Eric. Thanks for tuning in. Jonas says, can you get 150,000? We have 150,000 and much more. We've got loans, $500,000 even plus. So give us a call today and we'll do a free consultation, see what you can qualify for. Even healthcare providers, healthcare insurance companies, they're all getting information from LexisNexis. So let's talk about them in the Small Business Financial Exchange. So LexisNexis is in a partnership with a company called the SBFE. I talked about them in my training yesterday on business credit. The SBFE is a third-party data aggregator that's owned by its members. Its members are all lenders. So here's how SBFE works so you know. SBFE is owned by its members, banks like Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and Chase, and they have a get to give to get mentality, which means that they give all the information to SBFE in order to get all the information from other lenders. So when you fill out an application for Bank of America for a loan, a credit card, or a credit line, all the information from that application goes into LexisNexis, goes into SBFE Okay. And if Bank of America gives you a loan, all of your payment history, all the details about you, how you pay, all that goes into SBFE. And Chase and Wells Fargo and every other bank can access that information. So a lot of people don't realize that when they fill out an application for Wells Fargo, the Bank of America can see that same data, but that's exactly what happens through SBFE. A lot of people don't know that if they pay payments to Wells Fargo and it doesn't show on their credit report, the Bank of America can still access that payment history through SBFE. That's what SBFE is. So LexisNexis is one of 4 certified vendors. The other 3 are commercial credit reporting agencies. Okay, and they're all basically what they call vendors of SBFE, and banks, of course, are the members. So again, what happens here is that all these banks share this data, and this information is only available to you from some of it shows up on your DMB, your Equifax, Experian commercial credit reports, and a lot of it shows up on your LexisNexis credit report as well. So if you ever want to know the kind of data SBFE has, then you should be monitoring your business credit and get your LexisNexis credit report, which I'll show you how to get today. So where do they get their information? Well, a lot of different places. They get it from courts, state courts, federal courts. I mentioned this, for example, because if you have a consumer credit report and you've ever had a public record on your credit report, a bankruptcy, a judgment, a tax lien, anything like that, that is a public record that shows in your credit report. Well, a lot of people don't realize that that doesn't come from TransUnion, Equifax, Experian verifying the information with the courts. The credit bureaus, TransUnion, Equifax, Experian, get their public record data from LexisNexis. So LexisNexis goes to the states, they go to the courts, they get the data, they put it on their report. TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian then get the data from LexisNexis. So that's actually how that information is obtained. So anything in your public records or your credit report, that actually comes from LexisNexis, who's getting it from state and federal courts. Okay, local tax and property records, okay, insurance policies. They use all kinds of, and these are just some sources. There's a lot of other sources as well that they get it from, including the DMV amongst many others, but they use their own linking technology to then link to all these sources to get the data. And then that gives a lot of places a better financial overview of their ability to kind of depict whether they should give you that insurance policy or, figure out your risk to being able to get you a loan or a credit line or a credit card, something along that line. So what does all this mean for you and your business? Well, LexisNexis can predict how likely it is that you'll pay back loans. They check your data across multiple different sources, bankruptcy records, your complete address for the entire life. So let's talk about this. So every bankruptcy you've ever had, ever been associated with in your entire lifetime is on your LexisNexis credit report. This is interesting because when we look at consumer credit reports with TransUnion, Equifax, Experian, what we see is that data on public records only stays on your report for 10 years. LexisNexis keeps it permanently. So any bankruptcy you've ever had, judgment, tax liens in your entire life is on your LexisNexis credit report. Now, by the way, I want to ask you for one thing throughout this. If you're getting value, hit that like button, hit the love button, even share to bring other people in. And I need the like and the loves for the social channels to invite other people in. It shows them that this information is relevant to you. So please do that one thing. It's so simple and easy to do, and I appreciate it. Okay, your complete address for your entire life. Every address you've ever owned is on your LexisNexis report. Excuse me. Every address you've ever had is on your LexisNexis credit report. So when I pull mine here, then what I see is I see the address I grew up in Indiana, like my parents' address is on here. But what else is interesting is I see all the addresses I had when I was in the Air Force. I see actually my address I had when I was in tech school is on here. The address that I had when I was going to training, when I got to my permanent duty station. Every address I've ever been associated with is right here on your LexisNexis credit report as well. So every address your entire life, every email address you've ever used ever in your entire lifetime, every business email address, every personal email address you've ever had is on your LexisNexis credit report. Now, you might think that, why does this matter? Well, I'll give you an example. I had a lot of people for a lot of years turn us down for bank accounts, for merchant accounts, and they all said the same thing. You're in the consumer credit industry. And I said, we help businesses build corporate credit. Like, we don't even deal with consumers. We only deal with businesses. I'm definitely not in that industry. And I couldn't figure out for years where they were getting it from. Well, what was happening was I had an email address associated with an old consumer credit repair company that I owned many years ago before I sold. They were getting it from that email address. So when I realized that, I was able to get my LexisNexis credit report, dispute, and remove that. And I never had those issues again. So here's why I'm telling you this. It's not just if you've ever struggled to get a loan or a credit line or a credit card. It's, have you ever struggled to get an insurance policy? Have you ever had problems with getting things done with the government? Have you ever had problems with law enforcement giving you more tickets than you want to get? It's all stems from this. Have you ever had a problem getting merchant accounts and getting bank accounts? They're all gathering data from LexisNexis, and things like this is how they're associating you in industries and in businesses that you might not want to be associated with. So that's why you need to know those email addresses. Also, every phone number you've ever had in your entire lifetime is on your LexisNexis credit report, amongst many other things that we're going to be diving into here. So LexisNexis matches what you put on any business finance application, and then they basically tell the lenders and the credit issuers what doesn't match. Okay, this is fraud detection and prevention, because these records don't match. Well, then lenders were going to assume it's fraud and they deny the application. Look, most loan applications, the majority of them that get denied, are not denied because you don't qualify. They're denied because the lender, the credit issuer, thinks that the application, the business applying, is fraudulent. And a lot of business owners get freaked out about this and say, well, I am a legit business. But here's the thing, you saying you're a legit business doesn't matter, right? If you've ever been contacted by a scammer before and you called them out for being a scammer, they always say, oh, no, I'm not a scammer. I'm legitimate. That's not true. Well, so how do they know if it's a truly fraudulent application or not? So here's what happens. They get this thing. They get your LexisNexis credit report. Then they match what's on your application against what's on LexisNexis, right? So they actually take your LexisNexis credit report here. They match what's on an application to this. And the problem is that when what's on your application doesn't match what's on your LexisNexis, then it automatically throws up a fraud alert, and they think the applicant is fraudulent. They think the application is fraudulent because your information on your application doesn't coincide with what's on LexisNexis. And this is why we're building technology right now as we speak that will be released in 2021 that goes into these sources, pulls the information lenders are getting, compares against what your application, and it tells you all the discrepancies so you know what to fix and how to fix it. So for example, any ICS codes, any EIN numbers, it's all here. So the problem is that if you're entering stuff that doesn't match where they're getting it in sources like LexisNexis, it automatically spits it out as a fraudulent application. Because, I mean, why would your business application data not match with like sources that actually know a lot about you and your business? That's why most applications get denied. It's one of the reasons you need to get LexisNexis and manage it, because insurance policies, loans, credit lines, credit cards, law enforcement, government stuff, all of the stuff goes back to that. And if that data is not accurate, it creates a lot of problems. And I'll give you several examples of that as we go. DL says, if you have collections that are past the statute of limitations in my state, do I send a dispute letter to the collection agency, credit bureaus, streamline LexisNexis to get it removed? I always recommend pulling LexisNexis to see if it's there. It's a good place to always remove it there. You could dispute that directly with the credit bureaus as well, and I would dispute it directly with the creditors as well. Fresh Air Brown says, hey, just jumping in, where do I apply for SBA PPP and the 10K forgiveness loan? Any lender, I recommend community banks is where you should go for PPP. So the local community bank that you have, and try to go through the bank that you're working with right now. If you have problems along the way, give us a call, 877-600-2487. We'll connect you with our source as well. And Arnold Alfado says, can you freeze LexisNexis? You can't, but I'll talk to you about how to dispute LexisNexis as well. And Jennifer says, wow, so even if you are JIT, it turns you into not being real. Yes, that's a very key. That is exactly it. Because, guys, what we look at here is that it's hard to verify that you are, it's harder nowadays to verify that you're really legit if you don't meet the criteria they're looking for. And this is why I talk a lot about fundability and places like LexisNexis, because you need to know where these guys get their data from. If you know where law enforcement, insurance, government, all of them get their information from, then you can do what I did. You pull the thing up and you go through it page by page by page, and you see what's inaccurate and what shouldn't be on there, and then you dispute it to LexisNexis, get it removed. And I can tell you, in my world, this is one of the most important topics I think I may ever cover. Because in my world, my ability to get bank accounts, my ability to get merchant accounts, my ability to get loans, to get approved with the business credit bureaus, to report to them, all of these things became easier when I figured out that all of the data comes to one source. and the one source is LexisNexis. I say that they are the root of all evil, and I don't mean anything bad about LexisNexis, but what I mean is all the bad stuff that happens to us, the insurance to policy denials, paying more on insurance than we want to pay, all these things, life insurance, all these things, it all is coming back to one source. Now you know the one source, you can fix the one source, and then it goes upwards of all the benefit to all those places that gave you a hard time of getting you approved before, or unfavorable terms they're giving you. So LexisNexis uses something called LexID, and that is a unique identifier that connects all the data that basically pertains to you, such as marriage and divorce records. So all of your marriage and divorce records are there, pilot records, any license you've ever had before. So if we look at firearms, if we look at boating, if we look at pilot licenses, any kind of mortgage licenses. So like on my credit report, I can see the issuance of my mortgage licenses because I was a mortgage broker. I can see the issuance of my pilot licenses. Now my pilot license, because I'm a pilot, I've never had a license revoked, but any license you've ever been given or any license that's ever been revoked, all of those records are on your LexisNexis credit report as well, including, as I mentioned, firearm licenses and much more. So this is an important point, because a lot of people think that they have, let's talk about consumer credit for a minute. You think you have a TransUnion credit report and an Equifax credit report and an Experian credit report. That's not the case at all. You don't have a credit report with Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. You don't. What happens is there's a lot of data floating around in cyberspace that's linked to you. When somebody like me, let's say I go to pull your Experian, let's say you go to apply for a car loan, and they pull your Experian consumer credit report. They pull your Experian consumer credit report. What happens is Experian goes into their database and gets all this data that's floating around that they think is yours, and it pulls it into a report. So there is no report with Experian. There's all this data that Experian thinks is linked to you that they pull into a report upon request and serve that report up to the source. Now, might be going down a rabbit hole, but this is why identity theft in most cases is not identity theft at all. What happens is they pull data they think belongs to you that's not really yours onto your report, and they serve that report up, and you think there's identity theft, but nobody stole your identity. The bureau just put stuff they thought belonged to you on your credit report. And this is very common, especially with people with similar names, because when we look at the factors that populate something onto a consumer credit report, we look at the name, we look at the address, and we look at the social security number. Those are the three things that consumer credit bureaus look at to be able to put stuff on your consumer credit reports: your name, your address, and your social. Here's the problem. Your social security number, a lot of people don't realize that the digits in your social security number mean something very specific. So mine, for example, ends with 31. Now that means that I'm from Indiana. That's what it means. Like, I can track where you're from in the United States back to the first three digits of your social. If I know the first three digits of your social, I can tell you what state you were born in, because that's what that indicates. As a matter of fact, I can even tell you the county you're born in if I knew that specific. I don't. I'm pretty good with states based on social, but not counties. But you could even narrow down the county you were born in. So let's say my dad gave me his name. Okay, my dad's name is Gary. So let's say my name was Gary Crandall Jr. My dad's name's Gary. Now our names are the same. We're both born in Indiana, so our socials are pretty similar. And if I still lived in Indiana, like my sister still lives like about the same town as my parents, right? So if I have a name that's pretty similar, an address that's pretty similar, and now my social's pretty similar, we can understand why information that's not ours gets put on our credit report. So just so you know, down a rabbit hole, but that's what really causes identity theft. So that's what LexID does. What LexID does is it gets all this information in cyberspace that LexisNexis thinks belongs to you, and that's how they try to guess what information belongs to you that actually gets onto your credit report. And as you can imagine, it's not always accurate. That's why we have so many inaccuracies, one reason, on our commercial credit report. Okay, so that's what LexID actually does. Now, let's talk about types of records that LexisNexis can access. Well, address and phone number. So every address you've ever had in your life, every phone number you've ever had in your life. Mortgages, evictions. Not only do they know, so they know every title company you ever closed with. They know every mortgage you've ever had, every insurance that you, or every interest rate you've ever paid, the type of loans you had, the loan amounts for those mortgages, All of that's on there. What your rental records, where you rented, how much you paid in rent, were you evicted, were you a foreclosure, was there ever a foreclosure in your lifetime? All of that stuff is on LexisNexis. Every speeding ticket you've ever had, I admit that's 200 of my 300 pages, probably, maybe speeding tickets. I have a heavy foot. I don't know what to say. But every speeding ticket you've ever had, every felony you've ever had, every misdemeanor you've ever had is on here. So think about it like this. Law enforcement pulls you over. They give you a speeding ticket because you have a lot of speeding tickets. They're getting that data from here. This is where they know if you've had a bunch of other speeding tickets and other violations. It's all right here. But it's not just speeding tickets. It's any criminal record. So let's stop here for a second. When we went to get an SBA loan, I was told, have you ever had like a misdemeanor or felony? I said no, because I'm a straight shooter. I don't do anything like crazy I shouldn't be doing. I don't get caught doing anything crazy I'm supposed to not be doing. Okay. But then they came back and said, sorry, you have 2 misdemeanors. Now you need to explain what happened with them and why you lied to us and said you didn't have them. I had to pull a background check on myself to even understand what they were talking about. And the reality is it was all 20-something years ago when I was in the Air Force and I had a motorcycle and I was popping wheelies and doing all kinds of crazy stuff, right? So it was like traffic like related stuff, like reckless driving stuff from crazy stuff on motorcycles. So then I'm like, oh, I remember, and I wrote the letter and I said, I didn't lie, I just didn't know about it. But think about this. I'm getting an SBA loan, okay, down here in 2018, and I'm having to account for stuff that's happened to me back when I was in 1996. So that's the problem, is every record you've ever had in your lifetime is there. And when you're asked for an SBA loan or those kind of loans, have you ever had a criminal record? You need to think twice before you say no, because they're going to LexisNexis and looking back through your entire history of everything that's ever happened to you. Okay, that's a criminal record, misdemeanor, felony, etc. So it's an example of why this can really be a problem if you don't get it corrected. Bankruptcy records through your lifetime, military records, my military records on there, where you served, when you went in, when you got out, what kind of discharge you had, all of that information is on there. And this is often not accessible on credit reports. None of the stuff you see on credit reports. So it's mind-blowing that all of that can be in one place. And that's why this thing is 300 pages, because it's all in one place. It's all on that LexisNexis credit report. I don't think anybody should freeze credit reports. That's me, unless people are really stealing your identity. That question's coming in here. Fresh Air Brown says, should I go to LexisNexis first before I go to my banks and apply? Yeah. Everybody right now, and I'll teach you during this training, should get this report and go through it. And first of all, it's the most intrusive thing you'll ever have. You feel violated. You just feel violated that all of this information exists and all these places are getting it. Then you need to start going through and addressing everything that needs to be corrected and updated. Absolutely, you do. And DL says, did you say that I should send a dispute letter to the creditors? Yes, you're asking about fixing a collection on your credit report. Dispute with the creditors, dispute with the credit bureaus, dispute with LexisNexis if it's on there. Yes, that's correct. And DL says, how do you learn how to be a good businessman? I read a lot of books. I can tell you for me, myself, what I've learned is that I go through about 100 books a year. I'm obsessed with learning. So anything you can learn is going to help you be better in business, and find somebody that's kind of the mentor of who you want to be, and study everything that they put out there. Hopefully that helps you in that aspect. Okay, so LexisNexis has data on you and your business. Okay, they have all kinds of things. If you're buying insurance for you, if you're getting company vehicles, all of that's on there. If you want to get a business line of credit, you want to do other essential activities in the business, like set up a bank account, set up a merchant account. All of these decisions are being guided by information that's on that LexisNexis credit report. And this is information beyond just how you pay your bills, okay? LexisNexis calls it single view of customer. And it goes to aspects of your life, such as the kind of home you own. Let me give you an example. My LexisNexis credit report right here has every home I've ever lived in. I told you that, right? It has the address, it has the title company I closed in, the interest rate that I paid, the terms of the mortgage. Okay. It also has the building materials of my house. It has the square footage of the house. It has the homeowner association of the house. It tells you how big and how many air conditioning units you have, whether you have central air and heating, whether you don't have central air and heating. It tells them like the driveway, what your driveway is made of, how many car garage you have, how many floors your home is, on every home you've ever been in your entire life. How crazy is that? Like, you know how crazy it is to open your credit report and see my current home, square footage, homeowners association, it's 2 stories, how many garages it has, AC units, building materials that were used to build the house. Because there's a lot of things that people know about you just based on all of those details about the type of home you live in. So all of that information is on here. Okay, where you have worked during your entire life, every job you've ever had, every business you've ever been associated with. Okay, whether you have licenses, we talked about that as well. All of that's on your LexisNexis credit report as well. Now, public safety officers use information like ours to solve crimes faster. Analysts predict and are thereby used to prevent future crime. This data has been used to locate witnesses, find kidnapped children. They've got your criminal records, traffic tickets. So think about this. If we really start to think about private eyes, we think about public safety, we think about how law enforcement is using this. Well, okay, let me give you an example. If they know every address you've ever lived in, then it's a pretty good way of tracking you down. Because if you pulled this credit report for me, you'd see my mom and dad's address. That's a pretty good place to go hang out. I get in trouble in Florida, I go up to Indiana and I hang out, right? Some people might make that decision. But law enforcement knows it because they know every address that you've ever had in your credit report. So you start to think about public safety agents. We start to think about law enforcement and how this information is actually being used. LexisNexis even knows if you're on the sex offender list. That's on the credit report as well. As a result, anyone who gets your LexisNexis credit report can see that information. Okay, they suggest the LexisNexis suggests cities can share crime data and alerts with public to promote community policing, cooperation, and involvement. So they even promote that law enforcement should use that information and publicly release the information. So again, I can't say enough. We think because the Fair Credit Reporting Act governs that only people with our permission can access our consumer credit, we think that it's locked down. It's not locked down. You have places like LexisNexis not only gather all of this data on us, but they make it readily available to a lot of different people and a lot of different subgroups. And they even promote that those subgroups should publicly and openly share your information as a way of them better policing and fighting crime. So this is how this information gets put out into the public space. Okay, lenders use LexisNexis to make lending and credit issuing decisions, okay, directly affecting your ability to get approved. Lenders will check your loan application. Again, we talked about that. If it's inconsistent, they oftentimes deny you because they think the application is fraudulent. And you can't hide from the repo man, right? Collections agency get your information from them as well, and they can quickly track you down. So again, if I'm hiding from the repo man, well, then it makes sense that I'm going to go hide my car in the garage of a relative, right? And we don't think that, people, the bank that's going to repo it knows my relatives. But the bank that's going to repo the car does know my relatives because they get it from LexisNexis. They know every address that I've ever lived in. They know all my family affiliations. They know my family members. They know the people I'm affiliated with. They know their address. So because of that, again, this is where all of this data is coming from. It's all coming from one source. And I hope that this is mind-blowing to you. Because if you really think about how the government's using our data, how credit bureaus are using our data, how lenders and credit issuers and suppliers and insurance companies, and it's all coming from one place that they're getting it from. And once I figured this out, my whole life became easier because I was able to fix it here and then have a good chance of fixing it everywhere else. Somebody asked me, how do I fix a collection account? Well, that's what I'm saying. Fix it here first. Anything you fix here first, you have a better chance of getting removed. So let's say you have a bankruptcy. Let's say you have a foreclosure or judgment on your consumer credit report with TransUnion, and you try to dispute it, and they say it's verified, and you're frustrated. You're doing the wrong thing. Go to LexisNexis, dispute the public record there, then go back to TransUnion to dispute it. And you know what you'll see? Poof, the thing goes away because TransUnion's verifying the data from LexisNexis. If you fix it at its source, LexisNexis is the source of all of it. Then all of a sudden, all the way up the chain, all these people that are using that data, it no longer becomes an issue. So again, let me give you another example. I had 2 judgments on my LexisNexis credit report that were not true. They were not accurate. And as a result, when we went to get an SBA loan, they wanted to collateralize my house. They wanted to require my house as collateral, which didn't make any sense. I shouldn't need to provide my house as collateral. Now, here's the kicker, is that a normal person that would go get a loan would not know that, would not ask questions, would go through steps to collateralize their home. I know better, right? Because I teach this stuff. So I went to them and said, where are you getting this from? Are you getting it from LexisNexis? Yeah, we are. Okay. And then I verified it with my LexisNexis, saw the judgments were wrong, went and verified it with the county that those judgments never even existed in public records, verified it with the bank, and they removed the stipulation of collateralizing my home. I'm telling you, this is exactly how loans and credit lines work. And we get these decisions, and there's all this extra documentation they needed. They need to explain all these things, the letters of explanation, and they deny loans and charge us higher interest rates and charge us more money in insurance. And we don't know why. Here's why. Because they're using information from this to make all those decisions. And fundamentally, that's exactly why we're getting denied. I told you earlier that I got denied for an insurance policy because of my LexisNexis insurance score, which I don't even know about that. I'm getting that report with that score to figure it out. But here's what's interesting. When I talk to the underwriter, rule number one, always talk to the underwriter, not the front end rep of the place. And the front end rep tried to help me. And I said, I want to talk to an underwriter. They said, oh, I can help you. Tell me what you need. And so I just started going and saying all kinds of credit terms they wouldn't understand with LexisNexis. And she goes, okay, let me transfer you to somebody else. And she transferred me to supervisor. I said, I want to speak to an underwriter. She said, maybe I can help you. And I gave him a bunch of complicated credit and text and terms about LexisNexis she didn't understand. And she goes, okay, let me transfer you to an underwriter. Thank you. Now I talked to an underwriter, and the underwriter verified they didn't even look at my LexisNexis report. They just used my score. So now I know why I was denied, and I know what to fix. And if I fix that, then I go back and apply. The underwriter even said the same thing, fix it and come back. So again, this is why you need to know this, because if you know where the data is, you get your report, you fix the report, you stop getting denials. And even in my case where it's like, oh, insurance, I don't think I fixed anything on my credit report relating to insurance. Let me get a report based on insurance and that score, figure out what's causing the score to be low, address all that stuff, get it addressed. And then guess what? I'll never be denied for insurance again because I know the route that they're getting their data. And I also know how to come in and I know how to get it fixed. Okay. Okay. So if you freeze your credit report, does it prevent you from getting financing if the lender can't get the report? Yeah. It's exactly what happens. That's why I tell you not to freeze credit reports. You freeze a credit report, you're going to realize how difficult it is to get credit financing. They can't even look at your credit report without speaking to you and verifying it. Okay. I'll give you an example. I had somewhat of a freeze on mine, bought a car in Washington State, bought an Aston Martin in Washington State. They made me fly to Washington State to sign the papers. Every other car I've ever bought without that freeze, I was able to sign, have them overnight paperwork. I sign it, send it back. I flew from Tampa, Florida to Washington State on the other, as far as you can go in this country, signed paperwork and took a flight back. It was insane. It was like 18 hours worth of flying just because that was on my credit report. Freezes create a lot of issues. Okay. And I was told you can get your file purged. That's complete crap. You can't do that legally. Alternatively, I could suppress opt out of the LexisNexis credit report. You can in some form, and I'll teach you how to do that a little bit later today. And I've got a bunch. And Corey says, what did your criminal background have to do with the amount of money the SBA allows you to have? As long as you have, I don't know. I have no idea what SBA would actually try to make me verify why misdemeanors from 30 years ago. But I had to verify what those were and what happened. And I basically said, hey, this is what happened. I was showing off for like a girl at the time on a motorcycle, and, I got in trouble. And, as you can see clearly, I've never been in trouble since, but I did have to explain that. Okay. And Al, it says, people ask about freezing. I'll talk to you about that here in just a minute, what you can do with LexisNexis. Key says, what do you suggest if a Chapter 7 is 7 years old, but still showing on 2 bureaus? Bankruptcy show on consumer reports for 10 years. If you want to get them fixed, address them with LexisNexis, then dispute them with the bureaus. He also says, I heard about a company called Innovis and RDS. Didn't know how to spell the names. Yeah, they are data aggregators as well. Those are other people that collect data. There's a lot of them out there, but this is the biggest one. Marianne says, are they the same as consumer reports? You can get them off. If they aren't accurate, they are. You can dispute them, and I'll teach you about that a little bit later in this training. And Hope says, I just joined the call. Where will be a replay? You're joining in from Facebook. If you go to our Credit Suite Facebook page, you're able to access the replay. Peter comes in and says, some people are teaching a strategy to freeze LexisNexis. Is that a valid or useful strategy? Depends on the strategy that they're actually using. So I'd have to know more to be able to answer that. And do you guys help by disputing LexisNexis and Fix My Credit? That is something we help with our clients. We help get LexisNexis and check systems and fix those as well. So local governments use LexisNexis information to find taxpayers, minimize tax fraud, maximize tax collections, prevent fraud, and reduce identity-based risk in government assistance programs. So think about that. Okay, this is how they find you as a taxpayer. It's how they minimize tax frauds. It's how they maximize tax collections. So the government, even your local government, is using LexisNexis to hunt you down. Homeland Security uses your data, identify risks and threats, and you better be in the U.S. illegally, right? Or they're going to know that as well. And if you've ever had, if you've ever been put on the do not fly list, things like that, it's all stemming from information that's coming from LexisNexis credit report. So a lot of people have asked about this. Let's talk about opting out. Your records are in LexisNexis, whether you give them permission or not. These are public records. So a lot of the information they're gathering is publicly accessible information, but you can opt out if you're a victim of identity theft. You must provide a police report. You're a law enforcement official or public official, okay? If you are at risk of physical harm but are in law enforcement, submit a copy of a court protective order, police report, or similar documentation. So a lot of people have asked about opting out. A lot of people have asked about freeze. A lot of people have asked about this. There might be techniques to freeze LexisNexis. It depends on what people are doing. But you have to understand, LexisNexis data is public information. So because it's public, you can't really opt out of it. You can't say, I don't give you permission to gather and collect and show this information because it's publicly accessible. That's the way that it is. You can't tell them no. But there are certain circumstances where you could be harmed by that information being public. Here are the circumstances. You can verify you're a member of identity theft. You could be in physical harm if your addresses and stuff like that is publicly accessible. You're in law enforcement, you're an attorney, etc. One of my very good friends is a prosecuting attorney. She's awesome. She's phenomenal. She puts a lot of bad guys away. I would not want to be on the other side of her in a courtroom. And she's got all of her stuff locked down. You try to access her runner license plate, you try to get this, it's all locked down because she's a prosecuting attorney. That she can't have all of her address and information out there. That's an example of where you actually can get it locked down and how to get it down. You have to supply that documentation to LexisNexis to get it done. Okay, so for a price, your business can get information from them, and then you can use it to be able to basically get all kinds of leads. You can use it to be able to generate leads for your business. Because sales leads often have incomplete information. If you want the complete information, imagine being able for your business to get every address, every email, every phone number somebody's ever had. I mean, that makes them much more accessible. So you can get information from LexisNexis for this purpose as well, including aliases, every name that's ever been associated with you, every alias that you've ever had. Complete contact information. Think about it. Decreases time spent on verifying information. It determines which sales leads are there to talk to. Detects fraud or people that gave you false information. So now we're scared. Okay, now not only is government, insurance, lenders, credit issuers all using it, now we've got businesses just like you and I buying the information and using it for all kinds of decisions. So they can make contact with us. So this is where it gets so scary because all this information, you might say that it's public, but to get all of it and put it in one place and then give it to somebody that they want just because they want to market to you, it's pretty freaking scary. And that's exactly why everybody needs to get LexisNexis and address this. Now, LexisNexis has account monitoring of addresses and phone numbers, bankruptcy records, deceased, notifications, property data. So not only can these sources get the data, they can monitor it regularly as well. They get data on businesses, such as data on the people connected to it, relationships between businesses and entities, such as trust, franchise data, industry classifications. I talked to you about NEICS codes. So you have to think about this too. And I've had this. If you're ever affiliated or connected with a business, that could work against you. And a perfect example is I used to be in consumer credit. And now I have a lot of people that still say I'm in consumer credit, not until I fix this, because it was on my LexisNexis credit report, that affiliation. When I broke that link and removed the affiliation by disputing it, I no longer had anybody out there, merchant accounts, banks, saying I was in consumer credit repair because I fixed the source they were all getting their information from. Okay, other people, other businesses you're related to. Maybe you don't want people to know that your business is related to a trust or another business. All that information comes from there as well. Your NEICS code, your EIN number, the verification lenders and credit issuers use to make sure that your business is the one that's actually applying. They look at the NAICS codes. They look at the EIN number on LexisNexis and verify that against what's on your actual application. Now, Banco is a LexisNexis product all about bankruptcy data. It's a way to monitor bankruptcy cases. It converts a number of legal specifics about you. Even if you have no bankruptcy cases on file anywhere, this includes open and closed court cases. And some of that information comes from the government's own federal records from PACER. And again, publicly accessible information. But most people don't know about PACER. I do. I've used PACER to get all kinds of information in the past, okay? So PACER, it's publicly accessible information. Every court case you've ever been associated with, right? So whether you've been sued, whether somebody sued you, whether you're in foreclosure, any of that information is available here as well. These reports include bankruptcies, judgments, tax filings, evictions, criminal records, sex offender lessons or records. All of those things will come back and haunt you, even if they're off your credit report. We are so obsessed with fixing our consumer credit reports, but what we don't realize is even when we fix the stuff there, it lives for a lifetime on our LexisNexis credit report. It lives there forever. So we've got to fix it here if we ever want it to stop being judged by the data, or forever we will be judged and not think we are. We think we're smart. We think, okay, pull my credit report. Ha, ha, ha. You don't see the bankruptcy that's 12 years old because it came off my credit report. But they do see it because they're getting LexisNexis, and that stuff sit on your LexisNexis credit report indefinitely. So even though you think they don't know about these things, they do know about these things because they're getting these kind of reports with that kind of data. Okay. Becky says, if you freeze the report, will it prevent lending? It's not going to prevent lending, and you're going to have a hard time preventing LexisNexis or freezing a LexisNexis credit report. But again, when lenders and credit issuers can't access these reports because they're frozen, that in itself does throw up a red flag. Okay, C-Bell says, yep, I have to call LexisNexis every time I apply for credit. Keep the PIN they give you. That's what happens if you put a freeze on there. Every single time he applies for credit, they have to go contact LexisNexis. I've been through this before, like I said. What happens is the credit issuer can't access your credit report. They contact you. You have to go through a whole authorization process. It makes it way harder to get any kind of money that you want to get, which is why you should only really do it if you really are a victim of identity theft and you're worried about people really legitimately stealing your identity. A LinkedIn user says, Ty, are you taping this? Yes, it'll be on my LinkedIn profile for playback. And Peter says they are teaching to opt out of LexisNexis. Is this valid? We talked about that and how to opt out of LexisNexis. But again, the problem is that you have to meet those criteria. So the credit repair companies out there that are helping you opt out, they're having you do one of those three things and basically produce records that actually will verify that you do get opted out. But again, you have to keep in mind that it's way harder to get access to insurance, business credit. This is the primary source. So this is what I'm saying is that a lot of you are asking about opting out, about credit freezes. The problem is the minute you opt out, the minute you have a credit freeze, guys, it throws up a huge red flag to lenders, credit issuers, law enforcement, government, everybody that's getting the data. My advice to you is don't try to freeze the credit report so nobody can access it. You look shady just freezing it. It's so rare that somebody does it that it makes you look shady. Don't do that. Instead, be smarter than them. Outsmart them. You outsmart them by knowing this exists, getting it, and then page by page by page, you go through anything that's unfavorable that you don't want to be out there, and you dispute it with LexisNexis and get it fixed. I had judgments from the mortgage business that were 100% legitimate because like my mortgage business crashed. Okay, and I just paid those off recently. I paid off judgments recently from the mortgage crisis 2008. And when I went to LexisNexis and said, these two are wrong, these like 2 or 3 are right, you know what they did? They deleted them all. They deleted every judgment on my LexisNexis credit report, even the ones I told them were legitimate. They still removed them. So what I'm telling you is this. A lot of you are like, oh my gosh, it's all out there. I'm scared. I want to freeze it. No. We're smarter than them. By knowing where they're getting their data, you can get the same data they get, right? And then you can fix it by disputing it. Then it's all removed. And now all of a sudden, you don't look shady when they get your LexisNexis credit report, but what you don't want them to see, it's not there. And I gave you a perfect example of that. I got denied for an insurance policy for a watch But now I know where they got their data and I know exactly what they're looking at. So now I come into LexisNexis, I fix it, I dispute it and have it removed. Now I just, walk back in and apply again, and I get approved. And they don't know any better. So I'm telling you that by knowing where they're getting their data, getting the same data, addressing it and fixing it, then you become more lendable because you don't look shady because you have some freeze on your credit report. And that's a very rare case where they don't even want to lend to you because that's a risk. Now, all of a sudden, you're removing the stuff that makes you risky and you're giving them exactly the stuff that doesn't make you risky. And that sets you up to be able to do what I did. By doing this strategy of what I'm describing of disputing the information, getting merchant accounts isn't hard for me anymore. Getting approved with credit bureaus for stuff like to be able to get their data, use their data, that's not hard for me anymore. Getting approved for bank accounts isn't hard. Soon, no insurance. I won't have a problem with insurance at all anymore because I'm fixing the stuff that's creating the problem there. By knowing where they get the data, getting the data, fixing the data, it helps a lot more than these credit freezes that many of you guys are talking about. So, information on typical LexisNexis credit report, professional license records. We talked about this too. Name of any license you've had, the boards where the license came from, the number of years you've been practicing with that license, any violation on the license. Okay, business association record, the name of any business where you were an officer, your title, the data source, where they got that, the businesses that you're actually familiar with. Okay, and I'm going to give you a brief overview here as I answer some other questions of a lot of the stuff we've talked about today that's on that LexisNexis credit report. So I'm going to pull this up while I go through and ask some questions. Okay, Mary, is this going to, okay, Mary Ann says, is this going to be in our back office in Credit Suite? It's not, because this is only my private webinars, which take place Tuesday at 3, go in the back office. All of this will be available on the platform you're on. So Mary Ann, you can access this on Credit Suite's Facebook page. Becky says, can LexisNexis deny a dispute? They can, but think of it like this. Consumer credit reports get a lot of disputes, right? Because there's a whole business. There's credit repair companies that are built around that. So they deal with millions of them. My friends are the top people in this industry. And I see pictures on their Instagram of boxes of dispute letters that go to the credit bureaus. Most people don't know about LexisNexis. Most people don't dispute with LexisNexis. Most people don't know how to dispute with Dun & Bradstreet, Equifax, or Experian Commercial. So I have found that when you dispute with LexisNexis and the commercial credit reporting agencies, it's very easy to get stuff deleted. Very easy. Now, can they verify it and keep some stuff on there? Sure, they will, and they can. But so little bit of information ever gets disputed with them that in most cases, they're just willing to remove it versus actually sit there and challenge you and go back and forth. That's what I found from experience. They can do it, but I see that they typically don't do it. Okay, Tiffany says, when you dispute a bankruptcy with LexisNexis, do you need the file number and docket number? Well, what you should do is get the LexisNexis credit report and then use whatever identifying information they have on here to address it. So typically they have a docket number that you don't need to go to the courts to get that. You get the information from the LexisNexis report, and I even take a screenshot. When I dispute with LexisNexis, I say, I'm disputing this account. Here's how it's listed. Here's a picture of it. That's how I dispute with them. That way there's no question of that. LexisNexis is free. Somebody asks, is it expensive? This is a free credit report to get. How can you get a bankruptcy off your credit report? It's discharged a year ago. I have already told you like 5 times. Dispute with LexisNexis, then dispute with the Consumer Credit Bureau. Can you purge info off LexisNexis? The only way to purge it is to dispute it and actually go through and tell them what information should be removed, and that can work. Becky says, I agree with not freezing. A ton of people talk up freezing everything and say that they've never had an issue with financing. But like you said, I figured it would make financing harder if it was. It absolutely does. Anybody that says that fraud alerts or freezing a credit report doesn't make it harder to get financing or credit is lying to you. It absolutely does. Anybody that is honest that will tell you that they've done this will tell you that every time a lender or credit issuer goes to give you credit, they now have to contact you, and there's a series of steps you have to go through to even be able to let them access the credit report. Most of them don't even mess with that. They would rather just deny you than even go through that. And Fresh Air says, what companies like Sage, Stream, and CoreLogic? I don't understand your question. You have to ask that again. Eric says, how do I get into the private webinars? My private webinars are only for Credit Suite clients or for Credit Suite partners, people that are partnered with Credit Suite to offer business credit financing. And my private webinars are all about entrepreneurship. They're all about how Credit Suite became a $10 million plus business. What we've done to get here, our sales strategies, marketing strategies, exactly how we market, ads we run, audiences we gather, everything to do with running a business is in those webinars. Those are only for our partners. So if you're a Credit Suite partner, you can. If not, you can give us a call. We'll talk to you more about our partner program and offering business credit financing as a service. Patrick says, great response. So how do we dispute directly? Here's what you do. I think I have that, but if I don't, I'm going to teach you right now how to do that. Do you dispute with the credit bureaus? You go to LexisNexis. A lot of the information for the credit bureaus comes from this. And will this video be available to watch again? They're all available on your platform you're watching: Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. So if you go to Credit Suite's YouTube, Credit Suite's Facebook, my LinkedIn, you'll be able to access even Periscope or Twitter. You'll always be able to access our playbacks. So again, here's a summary of the information on your LexisNexis credit report. Again, guys, I'm going to ask you once again, please like and love the video. If you got value, like the video, please. It's such a basic request. Hit the like button, hit the love button, hit the share button. It means a lot to me. Every home you've ever owned, including value, sales prices, building materials for your home, HOA information, how many bedrooms, baths, roofing, AC units, every deed, mortgage, title company, interest rate, loan amount, term, and loan type of every mortgage you've ever had, every phone number and email address you've ever had, L licenses, firearms, boating, mortgage, pilot, and any violations, all traffic tickets, felonies, misdemeanors, sex offender records, aliases, all name variations, marriage and divorce records, every vehicle you've ever owned, including your VIN number, every insurance policy you've ever had and the details of those insurance policies, every business you've been associated with, all of your family info, including your children and other people that are associated with you, loans and lease data, everything they can get, aircraft and boat owner records. If you ever owned aircraft, boat owner records, all that's in there. Public records, including bankruptcies, judgments, lawsuits, and liens. Your education information, including degrees you've had, schools you've attended, dates you've attended, all schools and graduated, not colleges. All the way from preschool and kindergarten on, it's all in there. All of your military records, online marketing records from sources you've registered to receive correspondence with, short-term credit offer requests. That is a brief summary of some of what's on your LexisNexis credit report. So, do you want your business to be lent to on its merits, not based on that? Well, building business credit definitely helps with that. Getting your LexisNexis corrects that as well. If you find an error and you want to dispute it, then this is what you do. First of all, you can go right now and search LexisNexis credit report, get your LexisNexis credit report for free. It used to be you had to print a form, fill it out, and send it in. As of 2021, you can now fill out their electronic form and get it and send it in. If you're a Credit Suite client already, we help you do this. We help you do check systems as well. Just get with your advising team and they'll walk you through and they'll help you get this done. Okay, now the company will then send you paperwork to fill out, which they don't anymore. Now you can do it online. Okay, and you can go right here, personalreports.lexisnexis.com/dispute. So that's the path to go through to actually dispute with them. But you need to first get your credit report with them. It's free. It takes up to 30 days to get it. They're going to send you something that looks just like this. Okay, it's about 300 pages big. Yours might be 100 pages less than mine if you don't have a bunch of speeding tickets like I do. And then personalreports.lexisnexis.com/dispute.jsp is where you actually go through to dispute. Disputes can take months, but they typically don't. I find that they coincide with the Fair Credit Reporting Act, and usually in less than 30 days it's done. And you always send them copies of whatever documentation you're going to send and keep the originals. But again, I found with any dispute, any documentation you can provide that it's inaccurate, it's worth it, but always keep the originals in case you ever need that for another reason. So to recap, have you ever been denied? LexisNexis could be a good reason that you got denied. You got speeding tickets, you have insurance problems, you have problems with the government, them finding you for tax issues as well. It's hard to opt out. You really can't opt out or freeze this thing unless you're one of a few circumstances, like a public official, somebody that's really a victim of identity theft. You have to prove with a police report, or you're somebody's coming after you and you're in physical harm, and you have a documentation to that as well with restraining orders, etc. Outside of that, it's pretty tough to freeze the thing. Okay, and LexisNexis goes to all kinds of places we talked about, from insurance companies, federal government, local government. We talked about disputing it rather freezing it. It's an easier way to go. Okay, but it can help you too. You can get LexisNexis credit reports to basically sell more, to get better information on leads. You can also get this to know more about yourself, dispute those errors. And again, it really helps you. It can be used as a tool to help you, not hurt you. Now that you're aware that it exists, you know how to get it, you know how to dispute it. Now you can craft it, right? And that's what I call it. I call it crafting my credit report, because now what most people that get this report don't know is that there's people like me in the world that also know how it works, how to get it, and how to fix it. So you can craft this thing. And I always say my credit reports are beautiful because I craft them. I create them to be what I want them to be because I know where the data is, where they're getting it from, how it works. And I'm able to come in, dispute, correct it, and make sure that it reflects what I actually want it to reflect. Now, I'm not telling you to commit fraud and do a bunch of shady stuff. I'm not. What I am telling you is that I owned a consumer credit company and nearly 90% of everything I saw in a credit report was inaccurate. And you're being judged based on stuff you shouldn't be judged on. And I don't think that's fair. And I am in this to win this, meaning I want this to be fair for you. So get your LexisNexis credit report, dispute the stuff on there that's inaccurate. And in doing so, that's going to get you a greater ability to get money. Okay, if you got value, please like. Okay, please love the video. Please share the video. Subscribe on the channel you're on, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. If you go ahead and subscribe, and even in LinkedIn, you click to subscribe and then click the bell that says be notified and select all. We'll notify you when we go live. We go live Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Wednesday at 11, Tuesday and Thursday at 1 o'clock Eastern, or 1 o'clock all Eastern time. And we have hundreds of videos on our YouTube channel. We have a podcast you can listen on the go where I have all kinds of experts come on that I interview. All that's available on the top of our website, creditsuite.com. And I want to make sure that we can come in and I can dispute, or I can answer these questions that I have here as well before I wrap up. Okay, Jennifer says, I just received a letter that was a denial letter for a loan from a credit union. I didn't know, and it turns out someone applied for the loan in my name and 3 other people with my address. I was advised to do the credit freeze as a form of protection. Now what I do, I would go to the consumer credit bureaus and do it, but you need to know life's going to be hard. Every time you apply for a credit card, a loan, anything, if you freeze TransUnion, Equifax, Experian, you're going to have problems getting those loans and credit cards. Okay, you need to know that. And I would leave LexisNexis alone. That would be my advice. Marianne says, do you dispute with LexisNexis like you do with the bureaus? You do. You go with them. I gave you the link to go to the dispute link, get the report, go to the dispute link, and I always mail them. That's what I do. When I dispute, I take a screenshot of what's on the report. I explain why it's wrong. I provide any documentation I have, and I mail it to them. That's exactly how I dispute. I gave you a link you can dispute as well. Okay, is there a statute of limitation like there is with the bureaus? This is publicly accessible information, so there is no statute of limitation, which is why everything I've shown you is for your lifetime. Every judgment you've had in your life, every bankruptcy you've had in your life, every address and phone number and email you've had in your life, it's publicly accessible information. They just pull it all into one report, so there is no statute of limitations. Okay, Jerome says, I just ordered my report from LexisNexis. How long does it take to process? Usually less than 30 days, you'll get that report. Fresh Air Brown says, what about SegaStream and CoreLogic to look for data on your credit report? It's not on the LexisNexis report. Have you had that happen? I haven't. Almost everything I found that ever has created an issue comes from LexisNexis, but there's no end to what you're saying. There's all kinds of data aggregators out there that collect your data that you can get information from. I just found this is the biggest one that you really want to tackle. You could go down a huge rabbit hole with tracking down other of these data aggregators and trying to dispute with them. And since most people use LexisNexis, in my mind, they're the one that you really want to address. Just requested mine, linked user. So guys, for those of you watching, a lot of people are saying, I just went and got mine. I just went and got it. I just went and got it. So go do it right now. Go to get your LexisNexis credit report for free. It's 100% free to be able to do. And again, a lot of you are doing it right now during the stream. So go do it. And in less than 30 days, it should show up. Any person need website, please contact you. Your email, info@creditsuite.com is my email. It's how you get to me, info@creditsuite.com. And I don't see the link to get the report. Just go right now to Google. I'll even show you. I'm not sure what the link is, but I'll do it right now with you. So if we look at Lexis, here's how you spell it, Nexus, okay, free credit report, then we can see right here that we can go right here to consumer risk, home, LexisNexis risk solutions, consumer disclosure, request a consumer disclosure report right here. Click on here, and there we go. That's that simple, guys. To show you the steps again, I searched LexisNexis free credit report. I went past all the ads to the very first one, consumerrisk.lexisnexis.com, home LexisNexis risk solutions, consumer disclosure. Okay, access your file and learn more about the personal information LexisNexis maintains about you. Request a consumer disclosure report. Now they put this form online. I fill out this form, social, driver's license, and I request the report. And in less than 30 days, you'll get the report. That's how you get the report, everybody. So now you know exactly what to do and how to do it. Make sure you do that now. Okay, what am I working on? My credit report. Should I unfreeze it? Amanda, see what happens. If yours is frozen now, see if it creates a backlash for you. And if the backlash becomes too much like it does for most of us, then remove it. And if it doesn't, don't. But I would try to figure out more about who's using your identity, because one person maybe intentionally or unintentionally using your identity is might not be worth the risk of what you're going to go through whenever it comes time to get insurance, credit, things like that. But see how much of a problem it creates and go from there. So I'm going to wrap this up. If you got video, if you got value, like the video, love the video. And I will see you on our next training where we talk about more cool ways to get money for your business. If you'd like to get free business credit reports, give us a call. Okay, we have a free consultation where we'll get your Dun & Bradstreet, Equifax, Experian commercial credit reports for free. We'll go through them with you. We'll give you tips and tactics to build business credit for your EIN that's not linked to your social. We'll tell you all the financing you can qualify for now. You might be able to get a loan right now and not even know it. We will tell you that, all the funding you can get on that call, and we'll do a fundability check. We'll pull up a lot of the fundability check that comes from places like LexisNexis. I'm not allowed to say the information is coming from LexisNexis, so I will say that we pull a fundability report from information that's coming from places like LexisNexis, and then we tell you what's wrong and where the fundability mismatches are. Okay, we're the only company in the world that could do that, because we're the only company in the world that's working with LexisNexis and sources like them to pull their data from the back where lenders see it to the front where you can see it. So you can get a fundability report with us, guys, where we go to these sources, we pull up their data, we pull up your data, we tell you the discrepancies. You can only get that one place with us because we're the only relationship that's bringing it to the forefront so you can get it. If you want that, give us a call, 877-600-2487. Email us, info@creditsuite.com, or go to creditsuite.com/consult, CONSULT, consult, and schedule a consultation with us there. And Keith says, should I dispute multiple items at once? Yeah, I would. I send them I don't go like crazy 100 items, but I'll dispute 5 or 10 items with them at one point in time, and then they just address it all. And I've never had anything that they've actually verified. They've removed everything I've ever disputed, just so you know. And Dirk Daly says, fire. I love it. All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I'll see you on our next training where we talk about more cool ways to get money for your business.